Look, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about China's lost generation, and I think it's super interesting because there's very few countries in the world that have such a massive gap between the parental generation and the children.
Yeah.
Because like me and my parents, you know, we have differences, we have our differences, we have generation gap, you know. My parents aren't super good with computers, you know,
Sure.
that kind of stuff. But in China, it's a much wider gap. It's huge, it's massive, and that's because of something that happened in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, so we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, very recent history.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What do you say we hop on the bikes and go talk about this?
Sounds good. I know some cool places to go check out today.
Awesome. Let's go.
So, Lost Generation. It kind of sounds like Star Trek.
Sounds like that awesome 80s movie, it's the Lost Boys, you know?
Oh, I was thinking The Last Generation. Wait, is that a Star Trek thing?
The Next Generation.
Oh, The Next Generation, sorry. I'm getting mixed up here. But we're talking about China, not Star Trek. And we're not talking about the Lost Boys and that saxophone guy. That's for sure.
That is such an awesome scene.
It is such a not awesome scene, and we're definitely not putting that in the video. Anyway.
Oh, yes,
so,
we are.
Oh, shit. The Lost Generation, actually, the cause of the Lost Generation, actually, we should say what the Lost Generation is. It's, how old are the people?
Well, it's people that are now currently in their sort of 50s, you know, 50s, 60s, that kind of age group, really. People that were born in the 60s and 70s, 50s, no, sorry, 50s, 60s, and 70s.
That's right. That's what they've said. So basically what that means is those people didn't have access to education, and it's clearly changed their attitude towards life, or holy shit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
What happened was Mao Zedong in the 1960s and 70s, during the whole Great Leap Forward period, had this very wise idea to come up with this movement called the Up to the Mountains, Down to the Countryside movement.
Yeah.
And what that meant was the temporary, I say temporary, he wanted it to be a long-term thing, but schools were temporarily shut down, and the bourgeois, rich children that were going to school would actually be sent to the countryside and, you know, kind of, how to say, pushed out of the cities and go to the countryside for a couple years to learn how the farmers do, right?
Yeah.
So in Mao's Red Book, he said the kings of our country, the most powerful people in our country should be the farmers. So we're going to send all these useless, kind of westernized rich kids out to the countryside so they know the struggle and they know how to farm for our country so we can increase our output.
So it's basically, it's cool to be poor, right?
It's cool to be poor. That's exactly what Mao Zedong was talking about.
It's hip, it's the in thing, it's the way it should be.
This guy just caught a fish, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see his catch. Come on, dude, reel it in. Here it is, here it is. Come on. Yeah, yeah.
Can we get a closer look?
Did he get it?
That's it.
I think he got one. Yeah, nice. That's a big one.
How the hell did he catch that? It's in its tail.
Wow.
That's what we call a grass carp, I believe.
I would never eat that, but that's pretty cool that he caught that.
Yeah, it's really big.
Nice
Cool.
job, bro. Good luck. Nice.
Nice. I don't know how I managed to hook it that way.
That's
Yeah.
just lucky, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so what this did was put a massive dent in China's educational kind of progress, and it was very detrimental to the economy as well, because instead of people, you know, pushing for business and pushing for, you know, intellectual or white collar work, it was now all blue collar, and the only thing that was getting compensated or promoted by the government was agriculture and steel production and manual labor. So you had all these like kind of starry-eyed young teenagers being like, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a teacher, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a scientist. And now they have to go get sent to the countryside in a kind of gulag, Soviet Union style effort to promote growth in the country. And that had massive effects on today's current population, who is now about, like you said, 50 60, 70 years old. What I want to ask you, I'm trying to find an alley that we can sneak down. What I wanted to ask you was, what are the repercussions of this that you can see today in the attitude of people? And not from our perspective, but like the young Chinese people, what do they think?
Well, first thing, you left out a huge part of that whole situation, and that is when young people were instructed to basically attack their teachers and, you know, basically destroy the schools and, you know, reject all their learning.
There it is.
Yeah, this is the one. I'll go ahead.
Okay.
And so that again taught them to defy authority. You could do what you want. You know, this is your country. You can't have anyone tell you there's like authority. It doesn't mean anything unless, of course, it's you know, the Communist Party's authority. You can never say anything to that, left or right.
Take a left and then go right.
Okay. And so they basically, this generation became incredibly arrogant, and they were like, you know what? We can just beat you up, burn down the school, do what we want because we've been given permission. And these are people that are sort of 12, 13, 14 years old, you know, that rebellious teenage age. And that's obviously ingrained into your character then. So you get these people who are now incredibly arrogant, who believe that they can just do whatever they want, basically. You know, in a very spoiled kind of a way. So it's like, I can do what I want because I've been given permission, you know. And it is definitely, it's spoiled over. You see, that generation is the worst in China, like no joke.
There's a reason they're called the lost generation.
And that's because they will just litter, they will destroy the environment, they'll take what they want because they just get what they want and they don't care. So for instance, they'll, oh look, there's an endangered species animal, I'm just going to eat it because I can.
Right.
You know, or I don't care, I'm just going to throw litter over here. You know, I want to do this, I'll just do this. You can see, it's actually a very good example of this are those dancing aunties.
Yeah.
You know? They're such a menace in China because they're all of that age, right? They're all in that age group. They get together in these huge mobs to go and dance. Now, I thought at first that it was a really awesome thing to see these people dancing at night. I thought it was wonderful. Like, oh, look, people are getting out and doing something. But then what they do is they basically claim a space. If they just suddenly decide, oh, I like the street, they'll come out here with their little boombox and they'll start dancing. And the residents can complain as much as they want. They will not stop. In fact, they will get worse. They'll basically bring in more people and make the music louder. And there are a couple of very funny high-profile cases where residents in nearby buildings have fought back by buying sort of crowd control speakers to like blast down messages to make it so uncomfortable for these dancing aunties that they have to move. But they refuse. Like, the police will come try chase them away, and then as soon as the police go away, they come back, and you know. That
arrogance, again, I think you're absolutely correct. Go left. It comes from, and then go straight in this alley.
All right.
This arrogance actually comes from the absolute disarray and unbelievable anarchy that was happening during that period of the Cultural Revolution. And the Great Leap Forward is that people just kind of got used to scrambling to get what they could get. You know what I mean?
Left or right?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting down here.
Let's go down here.
It
looks very, very narrow. Yeah. Yeah. So that they are used to just being able to basically do what they want, and because of that, there's this very horrible attitude where they have this kind of arrogant authority over everyone, and of course their children and grandchildren can't stand it because they're constantly being forced to eat this or do that, you know, and there's nothing they can really do about it.
This is pretty awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Check out this building over here.
Where? This
on
one
the
over
left.
here?
Look up. That looks pretty cool, pretty old.
Just
I think
looks
you missed
like,
it.
Looks awful. What are you talking about? You know my opinion on this stuff.
Not the cement. Never mind. Anyway, upvote if you like that building. Now this is actually Huizha's famous ancient street. You've been down here. It's where they get the seafood.
Yeah, I recognize it, and it's so ancient and.
It is. I will say this. This street is very ancient. It's very old. But there's a lot of new buildings on it. Anyway, long story short.
Yeah.
There's a reason that. Why is that shop selling magazines from the 1990s?
I don't know.
Anyway, ancient. I guess we went back in time.
Yeah.
Marty McFly's shit going on here. So there's a reason that the young generation has now called them the lost generation. It's not our label. Because they are actually really, really frustrated. Now, if you want to get a public position in work for the government, which has always been seen as the best thing to do up until fairly recently for a young graduate, to get in the party and get a stable iron rice bowl job. It's very difficult for them to rise up in the ranks because of the old ideology and mentality that the people have here, right? So these cadres and people high up in the party are part of the lost generation. And I don't want to get too political here, but those are the ones that take bribes. Those are the corrupt ones. Those are the ones that are, kind of unsavourily like running the country, right?
Sure.
So the people that are raised with a international moral ethic have a very difficult time dealing with people like that and working with people like that, right?
Sure.
So it's created this massive split to where like all the people in the lost generation hold all of the power in the country pretty much.
Yep.
But their mentality is wildly different than the kids that grew up with the internet.
Correct.
And what has your experience been with dealing with younger people as opposed to these like that woman's generation?
Well, okay, absolutely. Younger people are way more open-minded.
This is that cafe.
Oh, cool. Unfortunately, because their grandparents and parents have been drumming all sorts of nonsense into their heads, you know, and I'm just being completely honest here. I'm not trying to put any political agenda, so I'm not going to go anywhere near politics. It's just they're basically drummed in all this absolutely awful nationalist kind of stuff, and it really just does affect them. I see young people who, okay, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, and I'm probably going to make a couple enemies here, but when I used to train doctors, the last kind of training session I had was with this very young, bright group of doctors, right? And during the training, I was preparing them to go overseas, and I was just basically giving them a bit of a catch-up on nationalities. Because, you know, Chinese, when it comes to nationalities, they're quite rude. They quite often try to guess your nationality.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they say to me all the time, oh, are you American? Or are you Russian?
Right,
but, you know,
just
it's
racial profiling.
Yeah, you don't do that, because if you go up to like an Indian guy and you say, hey, are you Pakistani, you'll really piss him off. And I also get a bit pissed off when people like, are you Russian? Because I'm not. Not that I have anything... I'm not against Russians, but it's like, I'm not Russian, so don't say I am. And the same like, oh, you're American. No, I'm not, okay? So, you know, it's kind of annoying. So I was just doing giving them a little lesson on this, basically. Very light-hearted. And part of this lesson was, I showed a bunch of sort of brands, international brands. And I was like, okay, let's just like identify the nationalities attached to these brands. So, you know, it was like Mercedes-Benz, and where's that from? Germany. Okay, so it's a German brand, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so there's this one guy, must be like, I don't know, 26 or something. He's not very old, very young, bright, sort of very spot-on kind of guy, very nice guy. And I said, what about this? And there's Canon, you know, Canon's a Japanese brand. And I said, where's this from? And he's like, it's from Japan. I said, oh, that's cool. Do you like Canon products? And he said, no, I hate Canon products. I hate Japanese. I want to kill them all. I was like, what the hell? Where's this coming? In class? Yes, where is this coming from? It's just like, I understand that there are difficulties and massive problems between China and Japan in the past, and still now, yes. But to just be so blatantly blanket, like throw out that blanket hate for no reason, and of course this is not the first time, it's quite common, I'm sure you've come across it, right?
All the time.
But, you know, it's like that's just been ingrained in them from this past generation, to not think, to not question, to not have your own opinion, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I've seen it, like I've seen the negative effects that it's had, and also when you're raising a young child, the strange beliefs that the older generation has about what the child should eat, how the child should dress. They force it to be bloody warm, like bundle it up in blankets when
it's heat stroke.
Yeah, when it's like 100 degrees outside, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there are definitely some horrible repercussions, and I see it having only a negative effect on the younger generation.
Okay, now what I wanted to get into was not a positive effect, but the positivities of the younger generation.
Yes.
Now, despite all of this, grandmother's propaganda is not as strong as the internet.
Sure.
And with the, more and more young people kind of being more internationally minded, hopefully it stays like that.
Check out this cool pagoda.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
With more and more people being more internationally geared and minded, which is a good thing, I hope that continues in that trajectory.
Yeah.
I feel like the young people kind of brush that attitude off, and the mistakes and kind of negative, dour attitude of the lost generation is slowly dying out. And I see the young people being much more hardworking, much more kind of clever, and asking why instead of just like, yeah, it's just bad, like that kind of generalization attitude. I see the young people just being better in general at everything in life. And it kind of does highlight the fact that the lost generation was, in fact, a lost generation. It's difficult to change an entire generation of people that didn't have access to education and were brainwashed. And hopefully everything gets better, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm going to quickly add to that. because I work, well, not anymore, but I used to work, I live in Shenzhen. Through my work and through my friends, I've met so many young, smart people with an incredibly bright future, because they're very well educated, the younger generation, right? They've all got like masters, especially in Shenzhen. It's kind of a prerequisite. Master's degrees. They're all very smart and capable people, and it's so nice to be able to see so many young people with so much promise. However, whenever I'm out here with you in Huizhou, or even in the more rural parts of Shenzhen, and I see the lost generation, these older folk just sitting around, and I look at them and I see no future. I'm not going to lie, I just see there's no chance or no hope for those people forever having anything to contribute to society, or to anyone. You know what I mean? And I don't want to sound so bloody awful. I mean, because I think every human being has the potential to be something great. But when you look at them and they just sit there doing nothing all day, kind of spitting on the floor and just being a kind of a overall rather nasty piece of work, you know, there's really nothing more that can be said about it, to be honest. Yeah. But the younger generation, yes, China has a bright future because of them.
My wife always says the difference between you and your great-grandparents is the difference between me and my parents.
That makes total sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a very good analogy. So yes, I think that's something people need to be aware of. And for some reason, people seem to think that this whole cultural revolution and all this other nonsense that happened in China happened a while ago.
No, it's very recent.
It's very, very recent. Incredibly recent. You know, like
went all the way through into the 70s.
Correct. And it was only in the 80s when, you know, China actually opened up and started to change. So before that, it was really pretty dismal. So most of the people you see walking around here were living in those horrible, turbulent times where it was difficult to eat.
North Korea-esque.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's all we really have to say on the subject. Again, we're not like political commentators or anything. We're just here to tell people what China is like.
Right.
And you can see the constant construction and boom going on around you. Anything you'd like to say to our subscribers before we sign off?
Well, I hope you're not lost, but I hope you're part of the generation that thinks we're awesome, just like yourselves. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Correct. And I have to also just finish off and say that not all of them are like that. There were plenty who were still very well educated and just managed to secret themselves away and pretend to be stupid or whatever during that time, or just go through the hardships and make it through. So, you know, you do find civilized people from that
another
era.
silver lining.
Yeah, totally.
My parents-in-law, they met during one of those camps in Hainan when they're on the rubber plantation.
Oh,
that ended in divorce, but you know, sometimes you can find love through struggle.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fantastic. Let's quickly go up here, and I would like to say to all of our subscribers, whether you've lost yourself or found yourself at a gate that leads to nowhere, remember, as always, you know the drill.
It's the end of the road.
Stay awesome.
Almost singing. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind's